renegade monks back there. Heri za Kwanzaa. Heri za Kwanzaa means happy Kwanzaa. If you were to go to my home right now, there sits a black angel on top of my Christmas tree. And on the mantle, instead of stockings, they're on the stairway. I have a collection of Duncan Royale antique Santas. However, in the middle, there is a Santa, not a part of the collection at all, who is a black Santa. And if you were to look in my office, I have about 25 nativity sets, and I have 10 black angels. I brought a few of them. And year-round, am I making noise here? Oh, okay. And year-round, if you were to look in my dining room, there is a picture that I bought from a black art gallery of the Lord's Supper, but Jesus and every one of the apostles are black. I have to create that reality for my family. I have to create it for my family. Because these kinds of situations, if racial colors were to be changed, are taken for granted in many households. Because we've been living in a white narrative. We've been living in a white normative society, which sets standards for what should be as it is, what colors people should be, the occupations that people should hold, the things that should happen like God, like Jesus. And historically, we've done this for ethnicity, for ability, for age, and for color. So Kwanzaa was created with that understanding, that many oppressed and disenfranchised people are in a world that has a reality that's not reflective of their history or their lived experience. And it's created a lot of hurtful situations for people that has exacerbated the sociological, the psychological, and the economic chasm for many disenfranchised people, particularly people of color. So Kwanzaa was created to strengthen African American people, and it's a model for all people of African descent. And if you've done enough work with me, you know that I think that that is everybody. As its founder said, we wish for African peoples and all the peoples of the world all the good that heaven grants, the earth produces, and the waters bring forth from their depths. And so Kwanzaa grew out of an act that was needed. It was a radical act of freedom, an instrument of freedom, a celebration of freedom, and a practice of freedom. It was an act of self-determination and self-authorization, a means of cultivating and expanding consciousness and commitment, a righteous reveling in our recaptured sense of the sacredness, soulfulness, and beauty of our black selves, and the practice of principles that engender and sustain liberated and liberating ways to understand and assert ourselves in the world. That is what the founder of Kwanzaa said when it was created. Now, I remember last week and the week before, Deanne mentioned in past weeks that we need to hold joy to move us through some challenging times. She said, in its truest expression, joy transforms difficulties into blessings and heartache into gratitude. And if I were to go deeper, I would say that joy is radical, that it's a radical life-saving force. And Deanne mentioned that it's a force. For people of color, it has been a life-saving, radical force. And so sometimes when I hear people say, oh, I know those people had some really bad times, but look, they sing and they dance, and so life must not be so bad because they seem to be really happy. But I would say that joy is a life-saving radical act that has allowed people who have been oppressed to move through and to hold out through challenging times. It's not that if we have joy, we don't have a challenge. It's not that we can be aware of the challenges that other people have, and as long as they don't touch us, we can be joyful. It's that we use the force of joy to be able to help us to hold out. And it's joy in the midst of darkness. So a challenge may reflect a moment of discovery, a moment of epiphany, a moment of depth, right in the middle of the darkness. It's not the absence of darkness. If it's a force, it's a life-saving force. It's the heartbeat. Can I do that? No, I can't do that. I was going to make a heartbeat. So you do that with your hands. It's the heartbeat. It's the heartbeat within the darkness. You hold joy that keeps you sustained, that keeps you living, that keeps your heart beating in the midst of a challenge. And it's funny to me because we're still uncovering a lot of the history of African Americans and people of color, and we're saying, wow, we haven't known that for many years. That's so surprising. We didn't know this person accomplished this. We didn't know that this happened to people of color. But there, sitting through all of that, has also been how these people of oppression have managed to survive, have managed not to be exterminated, that there's something that has kept them going. And we haven't gone to look there to say, wow, what was that? Let's capture that. And it's important to understand that for disenfranchised populations, those aren't one-offs. They occur in and out. They occur every day. They occur in many facets of life. Even yesterday, as I was standing at Starbucks, and the woman started to come up, I said hello, she said hello, she turned around, and she had a conversation with her coworker behind her. And it wasn't about me, it wasn't about coffee, it was about what they did over the weekend, and I was standing there and I thought, maybe she didn't hear me say hello. So I said, hello. And so she turned around and she said, and then she continued her conversation. But when someone else came in who did not have this skin color, she looked over and she said, may I help you? And I said, hello. And so it's not that it doesn't occur a lot. It does occur a lot. And it's not just those big things, those big situations. It's those little bitty things that tend to occur. So I want to take you through a study that was done, first by a young man who was white. He read the book Black Like Me. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that before, old book. And he decided that he was going to try that experiment, and so he took some medication to turn his skin color. And he wanted to do what the author of the book had done, which was to spend 28 days as a black man and to see what it was like. He decided to stop after 7. And there's probably many enslaved person who'd like to say, oh, I'll do that for 7 days. I'll change for 7 days. And so he held out for 7 days, and let's see if I can do this well. So some people won't give you directions, or they slam the door in your face.
Or got followed around in stores. Or, like the piece showed, 20 years of my life as a white person, I had never been stopped by the cops for anything outside of parking, speeding tickets. And, 5 days here, they were
just walking down the street.
Sure. Doing nothing, asking me, where I was coming from, why I was there, what I planned to do in town.
So how did that make you feel? Because I think that is the one thing that over the years I've done at least 100 shows on racism, and it's so hard to convey having that happen to you, being treated like a suspect every day of your life, what that does to your personal psyche.
Right. Well, that's the hardest part. I don't know if I can do it any better, but I think what the shock was that I'd gone through 20 years of this. Whites received this prima facie respect. I walked into a room, and regardless of how much money I had in my pocket, there's a certain level of respect that I get from folks. And the first thing that I realized when I was black was, it's gone. You don't get any of that. white people get this respect and black people are constantly trying to prove that they deserve it or are worthy of it. I don't think it's, outside of a few people in this world, black folks, or in this country, they just aren't used to that. And the shock was that I got it all my life and thought I deserved it, was used to it. As a black person, I didn't get it at all. It was all gone.
So they decided that they were going to use their Hollywood makeover possibilities to really make someone look really, really good. And so they decided to take 2 black men and to make them white and to see what that experience was like.
Eyes, I got bushy eyebrows, thick mustache, I got glasses, and voila, I was white.
That was really good.
It felt strange. I was curious to see how eager people would be to give me directions as a white guy. Excuse me, sir. Where's DePaul University? Excuse me, where can I find DePaul University? People were very willing. Even in the bitter cold, they rolled down their windows. Excuse me, where's DePaul University?
Go that way.
I didn't feel I was a threat. They didn't feel I was a threat. Okay, thank you. At this building, I breezed past the doorman. This one may have looked like a tough one, but they just buzzed me right on up. Thank you. But coming back as a black man, things were a little more difficult. With the very same doorman, I couldn't get in. I want to see one of my partners. I want to see one of my partners upstairs. On the 7th floor? Okay.
Just go in. I gotta announce you. I need to know who you're here for. If you don't live here, I need service information and security.
No.
And then there was this one.
First time I saw myself white, I couldn't believe it was me. Once I was out on the street, I felt very comfortable with how I fit into my surroundings. People were eager to give me the time when I asked.
Excuse me, do you have the time? Thank you very much. When I went into the store as a white guy, they came right up to me, asked me if I needed any help. These are all okay.
When I was a black man, I felt like I stood out. It seemed like a big hassle to give me the time.
Excuse me, do you have the time? Excuse me, do you have the time? No time.
No time. And so, as was mentioned in that show, it's not the major historical events that we're uncovering, it's the day-to-day situation. If it's a regular occurrence in your life, that you walk down the street and you're suspect, when it's a rarity for someone to answer a question, and when you've been standing there to help you, whether you realize it or not, it has an impact on how you live and move in the world. It's a slow wearing down of the spirit. Have you ever had an injury and just little by little it can't seem to heal and it keeps being there? It's like that. And I share all of this with you because that's why Kwanzaa was created. It was at a pivotal moment in history in which it seemed that African Americans were losing their pride, their identity, and their sense of self, that Kwanzaa was created. The days of Kwanzaa are underpinned by the importance of holding on to history and representing the life-empowering and life-sustaining principles to hold out. So there's umoja, unity. There's kujichagulia, self-determination. Ujima, collective work and responsibility. Ujamaa, cooperative economics. Nia, which was yesterday, my birthday, the day of purpose. Imani, which is tomorrow, the day of faith. And today, Kuumba, which is the day of creativity. The other days of Kwanzaa, the ones that precede, that are represented by yellow candles, are when we look within. And Kuumba today teaches us to begin to take what we have, what we know about ourselves, what we're learning about ourselves, what we're calling and claiming about ourselves, and to begin to see how can we take that and change ourselves, our communities, and the world. It says here, some of us have lost our inner compass. our internal motivation for engaging in creative behavior. And then it says at the bottom, I can allow my creative self-expression to inspire my community, not with some abstract standard of beauty, but with passion and with a willingness to show up. And that's what today requires of us, calls of us. I would say that the choir's work in pulling off the music today was an amazing amount of work and creativity and pardon? And fun, and coming out of oneself and making an impact on a community. So on the first day of Kwanzaa, for Unity, my family went to go see the color purple, the new color purple. I wanted to see it, and for my children to see the strength of the characters, and that's what's different about this new color purple. Not just their challenge, I wanted them to see how they move through the world with hope and determination, without the all is lost kind of attitude, but a strong response to the tragedies of life. And I wanted them to see how oppressed people could hold joy to the fullest and not be judged that their outward expressions were strange or weird. And what I mean by that is sometimes people hear people of color who are loud, or who someone may be dancing like this, but a person of color may be dancing like that. Could be me, actually. Or they have lots of expression in church, and they may come into a church that is much more conservative, and they make these noises, and people turn around and go, wow, what was that? My dad used to always say, hey, my man, and he'd be talking to somebody across the street, and when I was little, I used to just shrink, oh my gosh, people are watching. But he was so full. He was so full of joy. When he was sad, he cried and cried and cried. He was full of all of the emotions that he had. He took those in, and he expressed them without any reservation, any hesitation, or any need to be concerned about what other people thought. So when I went into the theater, it just so happened that there were a group of people who were behind me to the left who were from a church. And they were people of color, and they sat down, and I started to hear them go on and on about the show and the characters, and as soon as the movie started to happen, they all started to clap and went, yes! And I thought, oh, good, because if there's something in this movie that I really like, I'm not going to make a mockery of myself by just being who I am. That I'll be able to cry, or I'll be able to say yes, or I'll be able to say amen, or I'll be able to clap, or whatever expression I have, and nobody's going to think it's weird. But when you are in the midst of challenge, or when challenge has been in your DNA, sometimes that's all you got. It's just all you got. And you could stand there and you could be quiet and you could be silent, or you could not. And you could let the feelings that you have be expressive within your body. Wait, I'm missing, there we go.
Important or vital to me, culturally, artistically, than the color purple. It is a solid base of spiritual and emotional power for me. Every woman and man who has been invisible, who has felt unseen and unvalued, this is their story.
It's Sunday morning, so make a joyful noise unto the Lord.
Today, our teacher talks about a place called Africa. Our moms come from Queens over there. You know what that means? We, royalty.
The color purple is about love, and no matter the distance or the time, true unconditional love will always exist. When we meet Celie, she is 14 years old, and we see the world through Celie's eyes. She stands for hope, perseverance, and determination.
Pack your things, Celie. Time for you to leave.
Her anchor is her sister, Nettie.
Even if we have to part, you and me, us have one heart. Celia and Nettie getting torn apart is heartbreaking, but whenever we're going through our own struggles, there is always hope and light that we know we're gonna get at the end of the day.
Life is not easy. If you don't have people that you can rely on when your legs are weak and you feel like you can't walk, when you don't have the words to say, somebody else can speak for you.
Oprah did not tell me to show this. But I will say, Oprah, if you're watching Unity and Marin and you want us to do a showing, I will be so bold as to say we'd be really willing to have that happen here. Yes. So what that showed is what determination and joy amidst challenge does. There's a concept that's called Black Joy, and I got this as my birthday present. It's called the Black Joy Project. And Black Joy is a concept that people have grasped in recent years to help people recognize that suffering is not the only defining lens of African American people and other people who have experienced oppression. We must see the joy, the creativity, the strength, and the ingenuity that African American people and other people of color have expressed. And it says here, for centuries, blackness has been too equated with agony and grief. Persistent and determined fights for racial equity have challenged and made shifts to this old narrative, but the world around us continues to reinforce the worst. It continues to portray Black people as criminal, dangerous, unbeautiful, unworthy, disadvantaged, and good only for what pleasures or labors our bodies can provide. But we know better. We know about bursts of laughter over home-cooked sancocho with family and arguments over the best jollof rice. We know about rousing, poignant protest music during marches for justice on behalf of all people, all Black people. We know about cornrows, twist-outs, box braids, high-top fades, the right fits, Telfar bags, and dope kicks, hard-bottom sneakers, and everything in between that influence culture around the world. We know about dances that go viral on social media, choreographed by teenage Black girls and then copied around the globe. We know the affirmations our elders speak to us that fortify us each and every day. That is how Black joy works. It consistently runs alongside suffering, pain, trials, and tribulations that we have endured throughout history and that we endure today. It's the battery in our backs that recharges and powers us through the worst obstacles we face. And then at the moment of overcoming an obstacle, Black joy is there to celebrate the feat. It is one of our most key yet unexamined tools for surviving this world. In every way, it is restorative, regenerative, and generous. It offers the opportunity to go beyond the shallow waters of happiness, a temporary feeling that relies on circumstances outside of ourselves, into the depths and complexity of an emotion and a way of being that comes from within and connects us to ourselves as well as the communities for which we are a part. That's what's so needed. That's the answer to what do we do during challenging times. That's the answer to what do we do when we feel oppressed. That's the answer to how do we change our communities and the world. It's to hold that joy and to not give up and to move through, to power through, to continue to see that things are possible. Oh, I'm already there. So, Kuumba is the day when we look at the ways in which we can take the creativeness that we have and do something with it. And this is an example. This is the National Museum of African American History and Culture, which I wish I could go see in Washington, D.C. And this is their current exhibit. I think it goes on for 2 more months. It's called Afrofuturism. And it's if you were to look at the history of oppression, piece by piece, different aspects of it, and you were to then look forward to the future as to what you would like it to look like instead, this exhibit examines that. And so you find Trayvon Martin there. You find the woman from Star Trek, Uhuru? Yes. Yes, Nichelle Nichols. So it has her outfit, and then it moves from her to the first African-American woman astronaut, to other women, and it should have been prior to that, the women who worked for NASA. They must be in there somewhere. And so it helps you to be able to see the possibilities. It uses some of the most incredible creativity for you to be able to look at what would something look like differently. And there's this thing I'm going to tell on myself at the very end of the service where we talk about power and we do this. So African tribes, there were lots of kings and queens, but it was not about power over. This was the power. It was service. And so you won't see me do this. My hands are always open because I just can't bring myself to say I will have power over anybody. I recognize that I have to really be careful with any amount of power that I have. That's what our call is. That's what our requirement is. And so Afrofuturism expressions notions of Black identity, agency, and freedom through art and through creative works and activism that envision liberation for oppressed people. And it uses all kinds of things: music, film, books, other written material, fashion, theater, literature. And so if you can't go there, go see The Color Purple. But it helps us to grasp the concept of being co-creators in change and being co-creators in moving through what we don't want to see anymore into something that we do. It's holding our spirituality, our divine nature, that we need to be able to look at through the days of Kwanzaa, and especially today, that remind us continually that despite the worst circumstances, within the darkness, where we will find joy, that there is a force that cannot be taken away, because it's in the darkness when we need it. It's already there. We can be co-creators of a changed world. We can use the concepts that are within the days of Kwanzaa, like healing justice, which is a holistic approach to address trauma and oppression, and transformative justice, which assists us with creative processes and a philosophic approach to repair harm through education rather than through violence. And we can then become co-creators of what is joyous and what is world-changing, what is community-changing, what is self-changing, and what is life-changing. And so, our affirmation. Can you say it with me? Oh, can we leave that other slide, actually? I like that. I like that interconnectedness. My creativity and spirituality are so closely interconnected, they are, in effect, the same wondrous thing. Happy Kwanzaa.